After 12 years of testing and reviewing cars, there really isn't too much that I haven't driven. It's time now to take the Suzuki Ignis off that list. Well, it certainly spiced up the compact car segment when it launched 3 years ago. It was a massive hit with consumers and it scored points with the motoring media as well. Here in South Africa, it was a finalist in the 2018 Car of the Year Awards, and it also finished as runner-up behind the Polo in the Urban World Car of the Year category. All that's happened now is the update has brought it in line with the rest of the Suzuki family. Well, thankfully they have not messed too much with its quirky face. It is still that lovable geek thanks to the spectacle style headlights, which in top spec GLX cars are framed and have projector style LEDs and wraparound daytime running lights. The most noticeable change is the grille, which now adopts the 4 square slots with the S emblem center stage, as we've seen on the rest of their family, highlighted here with chrome accents in the GLX. The chins also had a nip and tuck with a smooth new bumper housing the fog lights, as well as this upswept faux scuff plate in silver, which they've now also carried through to the rear, replacing the previous black inserts. They've also included vertical reflectors as the other noticeable change. Color-coded mirrors are standard across the range, but the GLX adds integrated indicators which you can fold back electronically, and they really do dial up the visual appeal by adding roof rails, the flared wheel arches, and those blacked out 15-inch alloys, which I really love. And because it stands on its tippy toes with 180mm ground clearance and those compact dimensions, crucially it can add that all-important SUV acronym to its description. Now, of course, we've been told that having this extra ground clearance is really fantastic for our road applications. I don't buy into that at all. If you look at our daily commute, we are normally sitting on highways and traveling at higher speeds. And in that setting, I can tell you now, every single time, I'm rather going to go for the broad-shouldered traditional hatchback layout that sits lower to the ground than this tall boy design that seems to be the rave at the moment. It's just a lot more stable. On our little trip down to the Lowveld, we had a bit of wind, and in the Ignis, it was pretty busy. I was constantly having to put in steering inputs. I suppose it's also not helped by the fact that the steering on the Ignis is quite vague. It's like a degree either side of center and nothing happens. So you're driving like you see in the soap operas, very, very busy on the wheel, just trying to keep the car in a straight line. But obviously, bearing in mind the application, when you are driving in the city and at lower speeds, then those things don't become big issues anymore. They're not as amplified. Honestly, I don't see the benefit of having this extra ground clearance, because without 4x4, the Ignis isn't going to be taking you to places that a hatchback can't. So for me, it's more about marketability and how you're able to position the product, because if you can put SUV into any sentence, people are going to come running. So it may have pear-like proportions, but let me tell you, this engine is an absolute peach. It's unchanged. It's Suzuki's 1.2 litre naturally aspirated little power plant. And I say little power plant because it really packs a punch. When you look at the figures, 61 kilowatts, 113 newton meters, doesn't sound like much, but its curb weight is just 860 kilograms. So power to weight ratio is amazing. But man, what an enjoyable car to drive. The little engine is so responsive, it's happy to rev, and we mated to a 5-speed manual, and I really do enjoy getting it going. It's happy, it's fun, and that's not just in the city, even on the highway. For me, if I want to overtake, getting to highway speeds, super easy, and often in smaller cars like that, it can be quite a stressful process, and it's impressive because we're sitting at altitude. So you know you're going to be losing a little bit of performance as well. What is quite cool, I guess, as an option for people that are looking for more convenience, if you do go for the GLX spec, you can have their newly updated automated manual transmission, but it's 17,000 Rand more than manual remains a mouth pick. You know, something else that's really impressed me is actually how Suzuki have managed to shoehorn so much space into such diminutive proportions. I get in here, in my driving position, there is plenty of space behind me for passengers. My headroom's amazing. You don't feel like you're cramped at all, so they've really done a fantastic job, but the Japanese really are masters at that. One thing that I did find quite uncomfortable was actually the seating. Getting into my driving position originally didn't feel so bad, but the minute we sat on the open road and I was in my seat for 3 hours, suddenly I was like, ants in the pants trying to find a comfortable position. It's like all of that cushioning and support just didn't exist anymore. But again, let's keep it in context. Let's understand that this is not a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. So look at the price and look at the application. But what I do love is how they've managed to bring in all that character that they've styled on the outside through into the interior. The optional new two-tone color combo may not make practical sense, but the lightness certainly enhances that spacious feeling. I think the look and the layout is really trendy and on point. Nothing feels cheap or cheesy. Even the choice of silver or the blue cabin accents really work. An Ignis strength is its standard specification. You're going to get electric windows all round, central locking, the multifunctional steering wheel, there's Bluetooth connectivity and a USB, but you really do want to upgrade to the GLX because it adds their touchscreen infotainment system with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity. You also then get climate control, and I do love the retro fitting of the unit, and you get silver or chrome accents throughout the cabin. Keyless entry with push to start, as well as the rear park sensors and a reverse camera top off the GLX features. Suzuki South Africa have committed to a minimum safety standard in all their cars, so the Ignis does come with dual airbags, ABS and ISOFIX anchor points, and when crash tested by Global NCAP, this equated to 3 stars for adult protection and just 1 star for child protection, a mandatory score because Suzuki did not recommend a child restraint system test. So it's not brilliant, but it is on par with other vehicles at this price point. At just under 190,000 Rand, the entry-level GL is a really enticing proposition, especially as it includes a service plan and Suzuki's industry-leading 5-year, 200,000 kilometer warranty. But you've got to find that extra 28,000 Rand needed to get into the top-spec GLX. It is just so worth it, even if it's just for how it looks. Their automated manual transmission is also only offered in GLX spec and priced at just on 234,000 Rand. Do you remember that little kid in Jerry Maguire? That is what the Ignis reminds me of. It is impossible not to fall in love with it. Besides a spectacled front face, it just really has so much unique character. I know I was moaning about the fact that does it really need 180mm ground clearance. I think I'd love it even if it was sitting low down like a traditional hatchback. But one thing Suzuki have done so well, we've spoken many times about them smashing their own sales records month after month in South Africa. They have figured out what our consumers want, and they've brought product to market that really suits those needs. And yes, price point is super critical as well, and that is where Suzuki's saying, show me the money, show me the money.